Hello, hello, hello. I am beyond excited about tonight's event with three dynamic writers, young people, just people who are excited about the written word this evening. And the organization that's heading this whole event up, Shoutmouth Press, a shout out to them as well. But my name is Ramunda Young, and I'm 1/3 of the ownership here at MahoganyBooks. The other two owners are my husband, Derek, and our daughter, Mahogany. And we've been in business now about 14 years, 14 full years in business. 10 of those years were online, where we sold books to people all across the nation. They could order from our website, and we wanted to put Black books into people's hands no matter where they are, no matter where they were. And then about 3.5, 4 years ago, we opened up MahoganyBooks in Anacostia, right here in Washington, D.C. And so we wanted to create a physical space where people could have access to Black books. And so tonight we're here to have a phenomenal conversation with the fabulous Candice Iloh and authors here, young people from Shoutmouth Press that are here having the conversation as well. So we're excited for you all to be in the audience, to be a part of this special night. Shout out to the Kennedy Center for partnering with all of us in making tonight happen as well. But I will turn it over to Alexa, our host for the evening. I want to read her bio because I don't want to miss any of the great information she has. A couple of quick things too. One, at the bottom of your screen, there is a button that says purchase book now. So you'll have the opportunity to purchase Candice's book this evening, and we'll ship it out to you anytime that you purchase that. It'll get shipped out. And then also the other authors, they have amazing books too. And Alexa's going to share a little bit about them, but there will be links, I believe, in the chat that you'll be able to access and purchase their books as well, because we think it's very important to support our young people and their endeavors when it comes to writing as well. So just a little housekeeping, there's a button there at the bottom of your screen to purchase the book. And then also questions. We would love to hear from you. We'll open it up around 7:30, 7:40 for questions. If anyone in the audience would like to ask our illustrious authors questions, we would love to hear from you as well. So please don't be shy. We can't see you or hear you, so you've got the best seat in the house. So have dinner. If you're in your pajamas, you can enjoy the conversation in your pajamas as well. But we're excited to have you this evening. So again, welcome to MahoganyBooks Front Row and our special event with Shoutmouth Press and featuring the Kennedy Center as well. So a little bit about Alexa Patrick. She is a singer and poet from Connecticut. She holds fellowships from Cave Canem and Obsidian and the Watering Hole. Alexa was the 2019 head coach of the DC Youth Slam team and has held teaching positions through Split This Rock. Hey, I love Split This Rock. The University of the District of Columbia and the Center for Creative Youth at Wesleyan University. You may find Alexa's work in publications like The Quarry, Our Liho, Crown Magazine, and the Breakbeat Poets. If you don't know about the Breakbeat Poets, you need to find out about the Breakbeat Poets. Also, she's in Black Girl Magic. So please help me welcome to the stage Alexa Patrick.
Hey, hello. Hey, Ramunda.
How are you? Welcome, welcome.
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, and welcome everyone who is watching from your virtual spaces. Also, shout out to watching poetry events in pajamas. I'm here for that. I'm here for it. So again, my name is Alexa Patrick, and I am the programs manager for Shoutmouth Press. For those of you who may be unfamiliar with who we are and our work, we are a nonprofit writing program and publishing house whose mission is to amplify young, underheard voices. So right now, we currently have produced over 40 books, all authored by young people from historically oppressed backgrounds. And you can actually find out more about us through our website and through social media, which we will post in the chat. So keep an eye on the chat. We are super excited to partner with MahoganyBooks tonight to hold space for two of our poet authors, one being Sasa Aakil, who co-authored the book I Am the Night Sky, and Najae Purvis, who co-authored the book The Day Tejan Got Shot. And they will be in conversation with the wonderful, marvelous Candice Iloh, who is the author of the stunning novel in verse Everybody Looking. Now, we will make sure to post purchase links for each of their books in the chat during and after the event, so you can get your own copies. And trust me, you want to do it. It's worth it. Now, in just a minute, I am going to formally introduce each one of these wonderful poets. I'm going to read their bios. You're going to see all their accolades and whatnot. And I'm going to ask them to read a selection of their work. But before I do, I must thank the Kennedy Center. This event was made possible by the Kennedy Center's social impact team and the Culture Caucus, of which Shout Mouse is happy to be a part. The Culture Caucus has housed us along with 21 other DC-based artists and arts organizations in order to cultivate creative community. So we are super proud to be a part of this inaugural initiative and are grateful to be able to use this initiative and this platform in order to host Poets in Conversation, Identity, and Liberation. Okay, so I'm now going to formally introduce each guest. After I read their bio, like I said, I'm going to invite them to share one of their pieces. So don't be afraid to show love in the chat. Like Ramunda said, we can't see you or hear you, so you have to show some love in the chat. Be like, go in, poet, yes, all of that. Anyway, without further ado, I'd like to start with our first poet of the evening, and that is Najae Purvis. So, Najae Purvis is a co-author of the nationally acclaimed book, The Day Tejan Got Shot, published by Shout Mouse Press in 2017, and is currently a senior at School Without Walls in Washington, D.C. Najae has presented her work on many stages, including at Busboys and Poets, Gallaudet University, and the AWP Conference. When she graduates, Najae plans to pursue a career in architecture and minor in business. Nice. She plans to continue her passion for fashion and poetry on the side. Najae enjoys creative projects and helping the community. So if you could all join me in welcoming Ms. Najae. Hey, Najae.
Hello.
Hello. I am going to ask you to read one of your poems, please. And also, just so that you all know, dear audience, we will have a little reader's copy that'll be posted in the chat as well, so that you can read along with the poets as they read their pieces. All right. So Najae, you can take it away.
Resistance by Najae Purvis. I won't compromise. Resistance. I refuse to stay. I refuse to stay still. I refuse to keep my mouth shut whenever you are around. I refuse to fall down. I refuse to let you make me frown. I refuse to let you take my crown. This life isn't the game I want to play. I refuse to compromise with a system that is set up for people like me to fail. Back in the day, there were blacks for sale. That system that meant to give us hell. Just to think my great-great-grandfather wasn't even considered a man, I refuse to compromise. I am unwilling to stay sitting while I watch your killing because you find that thrilling. How can you not have feelings? We scream Black Lives Matter, you change it to All Lives Matter. Doesn't seem like it though. How can all lives matter when I feel like my life doesn't matter? We got people screaming to make America great again. Now we losing our men in the streets again. My voice is my weapon. I just want my rights. Stop feeling threatened. I break my metal chains so I can put my fist up. Just like Maya Angelou once said, the caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown but longed for still. His tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. I won't be your caged bird. I'll fight for my freedom. So we scream resistance because we won't compromise.
Najae, I'm so sorry you got cut off by the by the mic and the I don't know, virtual audio trolls. But hopefully when we pull you back in for the conversation, everything will be all sorted out. All right. But thank you so much. You are so dope. Please, y'all, read her poem in that document. All right. So now we have Sasa Aakil. Sasa Aakil is an 18-year-old multimedia artist, writer, and the 2021 Montgomery County Youth Poet Laureate. She is a co-author of I Am the Night Sky and Other Reflections on Muslim American Youth, published by Shout Mouse Press in 2019, and the artist behind the A Man Was Lynched Yesterday project. Sasa is also a brown belt in Tang Soo Do and a frequent maker of mistakes. So without further ado, please help me welcome to the stage, Sasa Aakil.
Hello, everyone. It is my pleasure to be here. So yeah, that's me. I guess I'll just dive right into my poem. Because why not? So this poem is called To Name a Few. Before I start, I'd also like to offer a trigger warning. This poem deals with Black death and a lot of pain. So here we go. Emmett Till, George Floyd. You asked me to write a poem as if this isn't enough. Breonna Taylor, Shaheen Mackey, Philando Castile, Michael Brown, Freddie Gray, and Sandra Bland. Rayshard Brooks, a Tatiana Jefferson or a Tacit, Stephon Clark, Botham Jean. Alton Sterling, Michelle Cusseau, Ahmaud Arbery, Janisha Fonville, Eric Garner, Akai Gurley, Trayvon Martin, and Tamir Rice. Unknown. What more poetry do you need? Gabriela Navarez, Tanisha Anderson and Tawan Boyd, Walter Scott and David McAddy, Walter Wallace Jr. and Dre Sean Reed. Michael Brent Charles Ramos, Manuel Manny Elijah Ellis, Emantic E.J. Fitzgerald Bradford Jr., Charles Chop Roundtree Jr., Antoine Rose Jr. What is more poetry than these names and the souls that held them? Saheed Vassell, Aaron Bailey, Charlene Siobhan Lyles and her unborn child, Dion Kay, Jordan Edwards, Chad Robertson, Deborah Danner, Alfred Olango, Terrence Crutcher, Terrence Liddell Sterling, Tony Terrell Robinson Jr., Unknown, Corinne Gaines, Joseph Curtis Mann, Betty Boo Jones, and the fact that they don't any longer, Quintonio LeGrier, Corey Lamar Jones, Jamar O'Neill Clark, Jeremy Bam Bam McDowell, India Kager, Samuel Vincent DuBose, and Brendan K. Glynn, and Eric Courtney Harris, and Philip Gregory White. Maya Shawatza Hall, Megan Hockaday, Natasha McKenna, Ayana Monet Stanley Jones, LaTanya Haggerty, and all the unspoken women, Jerame C. Reed, Bremaine Brisbane, Dante Parker, Ezell Ford, John Crawford III, Dontre Hamilton, Victor White III, Unknown, Mackenzie J. Cochran, Jordan Baker, Miriam Iris Carey, and all the unspoken, Barrington B.J. Williams, Jonathan Farrell, Sean Bell, to name a few. I can't promise you justice, but I will chronicle your names to ensure we remember you. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Sasa. Thank you for invoking those people and invoking those spirits, our ancestors, and their names. Say their names, say their names. All right, our final speaker for today, I'm going to invite her in. Candice Iloh is a first-generation Nigerian-American writer, teaching artist, and youth educator. She is a graduate of Howard University. HU. I feel like I hear the echo in the audience. HU. They holds an MFA in writing from Lesley University. Her work has earned fellowships from Lambda Literary and Vana, among many others. Her debut novel, Everybody Looking, was a finalist for the National Book Award, y'all, and earned a Michael L. Pence honor. So please join me in welcoming Candice Iloh. Hi, Candice.
Hello. Hello. I am super, super, super happy to be here. I am not reading the poem that is in the reader's packet. I was a little bit more inspired to read another poem called Shook after reading the poems of these two wonderful poets here. So I'm going to just jump into that poem. This time, they come from just outside my window. This time, the flashing lights don't pass, don't get softer, aren't headed to some distant place down the road this time. I think to look now that the red and blue flash against the panes reflect off sheer white, draped from the glass separating me from that world outside, not knowing if the boom was car crash or gunshot this time. Just half a block from this building where I lay down only beside myself at night, I scanned this apartment for its 3 locks affixed to the front door, for its window guards, for its window locks. I've been trusting for a good 5 years. Wonder if there should be a bat and or a knife stored beneath this bed, alone here. I accuse myself of this fear. Wonder if storing weapons to protect this body would be like asking for it. Whatever it is outside to come find me. Wonder if people buy these things, these bats, these knives used or new. How many use them? Think this body's still too light for a gun. So light no one knows how to be when I'm heavy. What to do when this body lies limp, sucked dry of all this blood it gives, donating to others, other people's kids. You know, you saving these kids' lives. They lucky to have you. We need more of you, sis. Thank you for what you do. We need more of you, sis. They lucky to have you. You saving these kids' lives. This body heavy with other people's lives, other people's needs, stories they tell it, people looking for others who save, knowing by this weight carried by this body only capable of saving itself. These kids doing it themselves. The rest figuring out who they want to save, having to choose too early, learning too soon of sacrifice. More familiar than this body with whatever it is outside that this body now shook by. That this body beginning to understand. That this body always trying to shake like coal from these kids' eyes so they can hold something other than death. See something else to call real. This body feels all of it too much this time. This body can't block the light coming in, going out. This body begging for ways to keep loving, to keep itself, to keep something alive. Thank you.
Ooh. Yes, thank you. I'm just like, and this is just the opener, y'all. This is just these are the poems to open the conversation. So I don't even know what I'm gonna do with myself. Shoot. Okay. So we have planned an interesting kind of format for this conversation. So it's not gonna be your typical panel conversation where you're gonna have a moderator and I'm gonna be like, well, tell me about your life. It's not gonna be like that. So what this is going to look like is as such. So each of the panelists have prepared questions for each other, and they are going to engage in a conversation about each other's work and writing practices and identity and so on and so forth. At the end of this conversation, we're going to open it up to the audience for a Q&A. So if you have any burning questions, please hold on tight to them because these wonderful poets will have the opportunity to respond. So I'm actually going to pass it off to Sasa to open it up with her first question. And I'm going to do that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So yeah, this question, obviously, as Alexa said, is to the poets. So I'd love to know how all of us, but how you both, one of you going first, came to poetry, found poetry, realized that it was something that you could do and decided that you wanted to keep doing it. Whoever wants to go first.
Okay, I'm going to respond real quick. So I came to poetry via the open mic poetry scene in Washington, D.C. When I was a student at Howard University. And a friend of mine, while we were in a study group, suggested that I write a poem to just blow off some steam because we were preparing for this exam that was stressing us all out. And she was just like, you know what I do when I'm stressed out? I write poems. And so I tried my first poem out when I was 19 years old. And then after that, I started going to all the open mics in the area. And I just was like, wow, I want to keep doing that. I want to hear what people have to say about my poems. I want to see how I can make people feel, because I know how other people's poems make me feel. And so it was truly the open mic community that made me get interested in poems. It wasn't how they were introduced to me at school. It was how they were applied to regular life for me.
Your turn, Najae.
For me, I think I first learned about poetry when I was younger. I may not have known it was poetry. Like, I had like a sense for like music, rhythm, and like rap, I guess. It was been times when I was like younger and I'll just like rhyme. Like, my mom would even tell me like, oh, that rhymes, like, yeah. So like when I would be like bored in school or whatever, I would just like write like raps and like songs like from a young age. I don't even remember how young, but I just remember like back when I probably couldn't even spell half the words I was trying to say. I just would like do it. But like as I grew up, I started to learn what poetry actually was, and I realized that, oh, I can do this poetry thing. Like, maybe like that's what I actually do. Like, maybe I should stop calling it a rap and a song. Like, this is really poetry. Like, I didn't really know what it was, but then I found it. Like, it found me, I guess. So like through like poetry, I would just like express myself whenever I was feeling some type of way. Sometimes I would even like get like instrumentals and I would just like let it flow in my head and write poetry to it.
I think that's super cool, the intersection between poetry and music. And like how they are the same, but they aren't. It's very interesting. Yeah, so I guess for me, I came to poetry through the way I came to most things, which was my mother. I was homeschooled my entire life. So one day my mom decided that she was going to give me and my siblings a poetry unit. And we were going to learn about all these different kinds of poetry and write all these different kinds of poetry and read all these different kinds of poetry. And I think I was really lucky to have that be my intro, because I was introduced to poets like Langston Hughes and not just poets like Shakespeare. So it was really nice to have that. And I kind of just realized that like I had a knack for it and I had a way with words, which I told Alexa the other day. I knew I had a way with words, so I was really good at insulting my siblings, like really good at it. I took that and I put it into the poetry and I had fun. I thought I was good at it. My mom noticed that I had a knack for it. And so she allowed me to keep doing it, because, that's how homeschooling works. And honestly, I think that poetry was horrible. The poetry that I wrote back then was horrible, but it kind of became a part of me. And I kept doing it because I realized it was a way, one, for me to process things that I couldn't otherwise process. But also it was just fun. And so I kept doing it. And now I'd like to say it is a part of me. Yeah.
I wanted to just quick say that as Najae was speaking, I am so glad that she said something about rhyme, because when I was reading your poems before this, I immediately was like, yes, it is the sound. It is the sound of the poems that is just like really resonating with me. And then Sasa, when you said Langston Hughes, I was just like, wow, the connection in the universe, because when I was reading Najae's poems, I was thinking Langston. I was thinking like a hybrid between Langston and Nikki Giovanni. And I was just like, oh, okay. Yes.
For the dope poetry.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Did you want to ask another question, or did you want us to kind of ping pong a little bit?
I think we're ping ponging, right, Alexa?
Okay.
I can ask a question. Okay, I have a question for you, Candice. So I noticed, like, while reading your poems, like, it seems like you write about like personal issues, and like either that's like your beliefs, culture, image, or like the community. And I was wondering, like, based on your work, are they like certain things that you've been through? Like, where do you get your inspiration?
I'm a very emotional person, and I'm also really expressive, and I do not do well with keeping things inside. And so that was one of the things that kind of kept me writing poems, is that I knew it was a place where I would be allowed to just be myself and like write about these things that normally people would say, like, you know, it's too personal to just kind of share with strangers or to share publicly. And it's actually celebrated to kind of go into the, you know, the internal aspects of ourselves when we write poems. And so I've always drawn from experiences that I've had. Like, my favorite poems came directly after something just happened. And as I've gotten like older and explored more with different forms and had different experiences, I started to learn how to connect my own personal stuff with like the things that I was seeing around the world, and seeing how it's kind of like there's a connection. Like, I'm not the only person who's had these experiences. I'm not the only person that feels this way. And it made me feel like poetry is kind of like the thread between myself and the world.
Wow. I feel like you speak in so many images. Like you said, poetry that is a thread throughout the world. I just picture that immediately. I feel like that's really cool. I got a question for Najae. So what I noticed in reading your poetry is that your poem, specifically Resistance, but you also mentioned that some others, but Resistance has a date right next to the title, written in 2019, I believe. So I just wanted to know how the date of things being written and how the time and the space you were in that year, during that year, factors into the story, and whether or not it continues to apply as, you know, the years pass, because you put it so front and center. And so I wonder what makes it important.
So, like I mentioned earlier, I've been writing literally at a young age. Like, I always had a notebook, and I literally would like write it, and I write the date that I do it. Like, I always like, I'm into like self-improvement even at a young age. So I always wanted to see how I like grow, not only like as a person, how the world grows, and how I just grow as a writer. So I like put this time base on it because it's important. Just like I wrote the poem Resistance, and how it was written in 2019. However, the issues that I talk about are still prevalent today. So I really think like putting the date is important, and also just watching how I grow. Like, I have other programs poems that aren't necessarily on social issues, but they're about myself and how I grow with my self-esteem and my anxiety, like health issues, mental health things, family, everything. So like, when putting the dates, it's just helpful to watch myself grow and see how history changed.
Yeah. I had a question for both of you. As I was like reading your poems, I just was really curious to know who you guys have been reading, or who you started reading as you got into reading poems. Because I know when I was at Howard, I had a professor that I worked with for like a brief time, Tony Medina. And he said that we weren't poets until we read 10 collections of poems. And at the time, I was like, I mean, I've read like 2, I know some names, you know, I think I'm a poet. Now this person is telling me that I'm not a poet. So I'm really curious to know who your poets are, and if you can kind of like include like older poets, like OG poets, and then some that are like right now.
I can go ahead. So older poets, Langston Hughes, obviously. I think to this day, he is my favorite poet, being one of the ones I was introduced with. But also, and you know, I think his poetry just carries so much simplicity, but also expertise. It's amazing. A poet that I love now, who when I first started performing when I was 13, I like found this poet and was kind of like obsessed. Janae Johnson, who I got to meet at BNV, which is nice. But I love Janae's work and the way she talks about Black girlness and Black rage and that kind of thing. So that is my living poet, Janae.
Janae is, I think I was really struck the first time I saw Janae perform as well.
Yeah. Watched all the videos.
All of them.
Okay. For me, when I first started off poetry, I actually didn't know many poets because, I think like the actual learning with poetry, like it doesn't become like, I don't think we learn it until like 6th, 7th, 8th grade. I was like writing before then. So like before like actually learning about actual poets, I usually get my inspiration from music actually. Like I listen to a lot of soul music, people like Erykah Badu, Lauryn Hill. I listen to like music that eases the mind and it just brings the words out. Like really honestly, music is really my inspiration. But I do listen. I have like read some other poetry. Sorry, I also read some poets' poems, and I read through them. I've learned about them, but I mainly get my inspiration from music.
That's a great place to get it from. Honestly, I think I've heard a lot of poets say that actually, that music is what pulled them into poems, and then they discovered like, hey, this is like sort of the same thing. I think that's, I think it shows up in your work a lot. Like the musicality of how you write definitely shows.
All right.
Actually, I'm going to ask another question. Okay, so Sasa, I wanted to ask you directly about the voice in your poems. It sounds very interrogative in a way, like you're talking directly to someone in a very unflinching way. Like there's a you, and then there's a me, there's a them, and then there's us. And so I'm really curious to know who's on that, like the other side. Who are you speaking to when you're writing, or when you're reading your poems, when you're writing your poems?
I actually didn't notice this was a thing I do until like this event, and I started like looking at my work. But yeah, I think that comes from my natural defiance and contrariness that I've always kind of exhibited in the way I am. And so of course the me is always me. I very rarely write persona poems. But the you tends to be what I'm frustrated with in the moment while writing that poem. So in one of my poems, it's called Here I Am, and I wrote it to my bass guitar, and that's like very clear in this poem, and I'm addressing it, and that's the you, and I love it, but I'm not great at it. So that's kind of the conversation happening in that poem. But a lot of my other poetry that's around the topic of any kind of injustice in the world that I feel the need to address, I tend to address the ones doing the wrong. The person who I believe has wronged me. And that kind of, if that makes any sense. So like even in the poem, to name a few, my words aren't directed at the person who, the people who've taken the lives of the ones I'm naming. Instead, it's written at this world that kind of, or this scene, this poetry, that kind of demands something from us, even when ourselves are enough. My general philosophy is that everything is poetry. And so in that poem specifically, I was trying to call into existence and just call into our minds the people who we've lost, but also recognize the fact that they are poetry and their existence is poetry and they are us and they fuel us and we learn from them. Yeah, I don't know if that answered the question.
No, you did. And I think even something that you said, I saw in both of you guys' work is that like the voice is just it's very like I have something to say. Like this is the kind of energy I want to bring into the room. This is what I'm about. This is what I believe in. Mm-hmm. And I like how assertive it is, because I don't think that when I started out writing poems that I was that assertive. I was more so coming from a place of like, I need catharsis. I need to like share how I'm feeling. I need to like lay this kind of anxiety burden down. And I was super moved by the fact that you guys are just like, you. Yeah. So you answered the question. Actually, I'm curious to hear kind of like the same kind of thoughts from Najae as well. Like, who are you speaking to? Who are you speaking to, or who is on the other side when you're sharing your work?
So mine varies, honestly. I mean, obviously it's like to inform whoever's listening, but like sometimes I'll do like poems like on like I said, mental health or family. Actually, maybe younger people. Maybe like I think younger people, because like then like also the dates, like I have like a poem from like 2017, like on a beautiful soul, and like just learning your self-worth. So like honestly, it's honestly a good guide like to growing up. Like, you know, I address issues like social justice, self-esteem, everything, honestly, like not living up to social standards and what other people may do. So I guess my main audience will be young people, because they need to hear it. They need to know how to stand up and speak and like you said, be assertive. Because I mean, nobody can tell you your idea is wrong, so just speak it.
Mm-hmm. Say that. Yes, no one can tell you that it's wrong. Absolutely, I agree, and I felt that. That's something actually that I really like about poems, is that like when you write a poem and you put it out there, there's no one that can really. I feel no one can argue with you when the poem is being delivered. The poem is the word, like the poem is the law in that moment. And I felt that from you guys' work, both of you.
And you bring witness to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I want to kind of jump in and ask you another question, Najae. You mentioned mental health a lot in your poetry, and you're talking right now about your poetry. So my question is specifically about your poem, My Silence is Not an Option. It directly addresses anxiety and this anxiety that exists in you as a personification. And so I was wondering, what do you think is important about addressing mental health, like explicitly in our work? And also, how do you think poetry can be a tool for young people to deal with their mental health or process the issues that they're going to, or even use it to walk themselves through like what they're feeling?
Okay, so firstly, when addressing mental health, I feel as though you can't really get over it until you address it. You know, growing up with anxiety, I didn't really know what it was. I thought I just always had butterflies in my stomach. I thought it was just butterflies. Like, I thought I just had it all the time. Like, I would like be scared to like talk to people, be scared to raise my hand in class, be scared to talk in front of people. And like I had to like sit down with myself, like, what's going on? And then like poetry was really a way for me to get my thoughts out. Like back then I probably wouldn't be able to talk right now without like stuttering and shaking. But like my first step was honestly just recognize my struggle of anxiety. So throughout poetry, I honestly recommend a lot of kids, not they don't have to do poetry, but just to write down how you feel, express how you feel. Whether you like, if you don't even want to write, just go outside and talk it out with yourself. Pray about it. Talk to your parents. Just get it out. So I just recommend everyone to write it down. I really think poetry is really effective because I mean it gives you time to just sit and reflect. So I think that's good.
Yeah, I think that's great too. I'm sad. Did we lose Candice? I'm really sad because my next question was for them. No. All right.
Yeah, let's see if our connection will come back before we end here.
Okay.
Sure. Hello.
Hello.
I was to ask you a question.
Well, it is 7:52, and I was going to say, in the meantime, it would be good to get some questions from the audience.
Absolutely. Let me see if I can try Candice up one more time, and then, she said she's working on it. Okay. I have a question, too, that someone has emailed us as well. And one of the question is, what have you learned most about yourself and your writing that you didn't know before? So as you went on this journey, was there any discovery when you started writing that you're like, oh, I didn't know I liked this, or thought this way, or felt this way about certain issues? Were there any moments like that for you guys?
For me, I feel like that was every moment. Like, I've been writing since I was 9. So at this point, it's half my life. So a lot of me, I know because of poetry, and I know through poetry, and I learned and I accessed through poetry. When I was, hey, Candice, I have another question for you. Yeah, so I know me and I understand myself because I understand poetry. I'm gonna pass it off. I have a baby in here. Sorry.
Reality, yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you heard the question, Candice, that from one of our audience members that they emailed, and it's what have you learned most about yourself and your writing that you didn't know before? Was there any discoveries as you began the journey of writing? And then Najae, you can answer it too, but. Yeah.
I'm hearing an echo. I don't know if everybody else is hearing that or not.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mainly learned that I'm brave. I saw myself as a very fearful, small kind of person before I came to poems. And I learned what bravery actually is as I was writing poems and as I was getting older. In this community, and it's really the whole doing it afraid, sharing it afraid, being present even when you're afraid. And so, yeah, I learned that I was brave.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
We can hear you.
Start over. I don't know. Okay. I think I stopped at I didn't want to stay in the box that people labeled me as, because I realized that they were kind of defining me, and like once I like found myself, started to express myself, and realized like I'm actually not, like I actually have great ideas. I'm actually willing to express my ideas. Like I can do this. Like I really have great ideas. I need to like let it out. Like I can do this. Like I'm not gonna let the anxiety stop me. Like, I don't know.
That's powerful, though, Najae. Mm-hmm. That your writing allowed you to push through your fears, like you said, and your anxiety. Just people, I think, people really don't understand the power of a pen and paper. Some people are just like, oh, it's just rubbish or just something. But to hear you say how it can transform you and how you thought about yourself, how you felt about yourself, how you were brave, just your words there is powerful. So yeah, I think that is a great benefit for everybody that's watching here tonight to know that there's really, immense value in that. And anyone can be a poet. And in my mind, do you all feel like anyone can be a poet in your mind?
I do.
Yeah, because some people they'll think, you have to have this type of skill, this type of technique. I feel like everyone has a voice and can express themselves in their own way. So, but kudos to each of you for that. Another question that I have here from our audience says, what has been the biggest challenge for you as a writer? What has been the biggest challenge for each of you as a writer? Or has it been gravy? Has it been all?
No.
Great. Just checking.
I would say for me is developing like a writing practice.
I think when I first started poetry, I was
developing discipline.
I won't say afraid.
I feel
I was
like
a bit cautious.
Yeah, anyone can be a poet. Anybody could be a writer, but to keep growing as a poet or writer, you need to develop some type of practice or means of discipline, so that way you can continue to grow and not just be kind of like plateauing and writing the way that you did on the very first day. I think all artists kind of need to figure out what it is that helps you keep staying in that space that allows you to do what it is that you do. And I think that I am still learning what works for me. I'm still learning what kind of space or kind of like environment I need to create for myself in order to render the kind of art that I want to make. And I think that's been the biggest challenge, is like even though it's art and people, associate art with just being free and doing whatever, there is technique to it. There is strategy to it, and you need to figure out what it is that you need to like develop your own strategy, your own technique, so you can keep growing.
That's good. Najae, sounds like you were saying something too, and it may have been an overlap. So I want to make sure we hear what you were saying too. What has been your biggest challenge in writing? Can you hear us, Najae?
She's muted.
There we go. Hear that again. There we go. Let's see.
Oh no.
Can you hear us, Najae? We're not muted.
Yeah, I can hear you, but Sasa's frozen for me.
Oh, I can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay.
Go ahead and share your thoughts too.
Okay. What was the question? Sorry.
Sure. What was the biggest challenge you discovered as a writer?
Okay.
If there has been.
I was saying that I didn't necessarily have a challenge, but I was very cautious. Like when I first started, I was very like nervous and like, okay, maybe I shouldn't put this because of what such and such may think. Maybe I shouldn't say that. But then, like as I grew up, I realized that like no, if my community or if I feel threatened, I have a right to feel. I have a right to express myself. So it's not really a challenge, but I've grown like from being a cautious writer to a very expressive writer.
Love that. I love that. Yeah. What about you, Sasa?
Yeah, for me, I think my biggest writing challenge was and is, I've gotten better at it, finding writing spaces, like finding writing communities, and getting with / dealing with feedback. So I spent a lot of time writing like on my own, in my own room, reading for just myself, because I'm not from a family of writers. They all are interested in different things. So I got really used to just being on my own. And so I didn't have enough spaces where I could go and get feedback, like not positive, constructive feedback on my writing and improve from there. And then once I found those spaces, I was like, when I got the feedback. Of course, I appreciated it, and I always tried to take it. I always tried to, because people's opinions and people's thoughts, they do matter in these ways. Sometimes yours matters more as the writer, but sometimes not. So my was big. And yeah, balancing that, because it's like being true to your story, but also making sure that you're writing good poetry. So that was my challenge, but I think I've gotten much better at it. I hope so anyway.
I second that. Getting feedback's hard.
Is it, why do you become really defensive and protective of your work? And like, who are you to tell me about my work? Like, why do you say it's hard?
I think it's just hard because in the writing process, many of us become really precious about our work. Like we write it and we're like, ooh, everybody's about to love this. Like, wow, I'm amazing. And then someone comes along and is like, I don't even, like, this isn't tracking. Or they'll be like, this is working, but I don't know if you need this. And so I think it's hard just because of ego. Like we think that whatever it is that we're creating is just, we get to a point where we think whatever we're creating is going to be received in the way that we intended. And it's like a muscle that you have to kind of work, like figuring out, who you want to listen to, who you want to share your work with and get feedback from, and then figuring out how to like receive that so that way you can improve upon whatever it is that you created.
No, thank you for sharing that. No, this was phenomenal. This is the first time I've had 2 young poets in the building sharing their work. And so I just want to actually I brought a special clapper for y'all because I'm excited. This has got 3 hands. I'm like,
the hand.
3 hand claps for Najae and Sasa, and then for Candice also. This is so grateful, but I would be remiss if I did not do a special shout out to Kathy Crutcher, who's in the audience as well. Just a big shout out to Kathy for your dedication, for your energy, for your intention in helping tonight happen. And we just have a great relationship with Shout Mouse Press. I'm excited. This is our second partnership event that we've done, and it always brings just a light feeling to my heart to know that there's young people out there that have a space, that they have the room to express themselves through writing. And to have you both here as well has been huge and inspirational. So again, shout out to Kathy and all that you're doing with these young writers. And then also a quick shout out to the Kennedy Center and the Culture Caucus. Alexa, you need to drop a quick song for us, but we're not going to put you on the spot. Are you feeling it before we hit? Somebody said yes. I mean, hey, we're feeling it. Think about it. Yeah, so hey.
My mic's breaking up. Hold up, my mic.
Get your new mic. Let me Uber a mic over to you. No.
Oh my goodness.
But tonight was just perfect. So aside from the technical difficulties at the beginning, but thank you everybody for your patience, and thank you all for just spending this time with us. Candice, we are just so pumped about your book. We'll talk about all of your books, and are you in the middle of writing your next one yet, or are you?
I am. I'm on deadline right now. Trust.
Trust and believe.
Right home.
Can you share anything about it? Title, anything, plot?
The title of the book is "Break This House," and that's all I'm sharing right now.
We received that. No problem. Thank you for that little surprise. Well, I'm honored, delighted, and pleased to have all of this melanin magic on the screen this evening, and for people to really understand what it means to be a poet and to share and to put your thoughts and your energy out on the paper. And you're each gifted at it. So thank you again for allowing Mahogany Books to be part of this. And for everyone here, you can grab Candice's book by pressing the button that says purchase your book. And Sasa's and Najae's book, you can also grab those at shoutmousepress.org/catalog. Thank you, Kathy, with the clutch URL down there in the chat. And this replay will be available as well afterwards. So if you weren't able to catch it now, I see about 50 so people here. If you weren't able to catch it, then you can watch the replay and share with a friend and share with another young person. Perhaps they will get inspired by seeing these young people who have stepped out in boldness and courage and wrote their thoughts down and shared it with the world. So to everyone, thank you for coming. Have a great night. And all the best to each of you. Take care. Thank you again, Kathy. Take care.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely.